Good Tuesday evening. I'm Joe Gilloway, and along with my partner, Bill Bostic, we'd like to welcome you to episode 5 of This and That, the podcast, where we'll meet people and explore issues from all realms of life and the world we live in. We'll introduce you to tonight's guests in just a moment, as soon as we're done thanking those responsible for bringing you tonight's show. And let's see here. We are going to give you the... All right, there we go. First night we have... that in play. Yeah.
Pretty fancy, Joe.
Well, I don't know about fancy, but it's better than we had last week. And we're really proud to have these three local businesses on board as sponsors. They are, of course, Rickabaw's Electric. Dan Rickabaugh, thanks very much. He sponsors our Linglestown Gazette sports offerings as well, along with Greg Cavoli, who does the same with Team Pennsylvania. And then our newest sponsor is Be a Hero, Hire a Hero. And they basically they help military veterans find jobs. They help place veterans into employment. That's an important business, and that's a business that we're very fortunate to have in our community now. So thanks to all those great local businesses. All right, so let me get the StreamYard overlay out. All right, upcoming on this show. We are sourcing, actually, we already have sourced Central Dauphin School District Superintendent Eric Turman and Chief Recovery Officer from Harrisburg School District, Travis Waters. I spoke to both of them probably 6 weeks ago, just when we were ready to launch this show. And they're both interested in coming on and discussing some of the relevant issues with education, how it varies from the suburbs to the rural areas to the city areas. And they both have experience in that, and it should be an interesting show. Tomorrow night on our sister podcast, Gazette Sports Chat, which is a Linglestown Gazette Sports offering, we're going to talk about some relevant issues in high school sports. The Steel High Stadium, which has been deemed unplayable, lots of issues down there, and one of them now is the stadium, is the football facility. We are going to do a Gazette or a This and That, the podcast on the Steel High School District too. So there is a lot going on down at Steel High right now. We're going to talk about District 3 and District 6, how they kind of coexist, how they play one another during the regular season, but not the postseason. The shot clock, which there's been talk about bringing a shot clock into basketball and lacrosse now. I didn't know about that. So we have some really interesting guests. Ty Savercool, boys basketball coach from Northern High School, Ty Savercool. Tara Hohenschelt, she's the girls lacrosse coach up at State College. And, of course, Dave Berman, the voice of Delco, Dave Berman. Okay, we lost Eric and we got him back. We lost him and got him back before we even really got into things here. So our disclaimer is the views and opinions expressed on this show are those of the participants who state them and do not necessarily reflect the beliefs or positions held by This and That, the podcast, as an entity, Bill or myself, or the sponsors who support the show. Okay, so tonight's guests are three members of Central Dauphin School District's 9-seat Board of School Directors. They have been and will continue to be challenged with addressing a growing number of issues that their district students, teachers, and taxpayers all see as high priorities. We'll discuss some of these issues tonight, at least 4 that we feel may be near the top of many community members' lists. We're excited to have joining us on This and That, the podcast, Central Dauphin School District Board Directors Jeanne Webster, Eric Epstein, and Board President Mike Jacobs. Thank you, everyone, for joining us.
Well, thank you for having us.
Sorry, that's a mouthful. I can't get through that quickly. So we're excited to have you for sure. And Jeanne and I were talking over the weekend, Saturday or Sunday, and I kind of went over. We talked for a little while. I kind of went over the issues that I'd like to address. And you were like, "Yep." So you kind of think I have 4 issues that a lot of people want to know about, right?
Yes.
And I'm going to mention them all before we get into the first one. We're going to talk about full day kindergarten. Oh, Bill Bostic.
Yeah.
Welcome back. Bill's my co-host. We didn't do our normal, what do we like to call that, Bill?
You and I. Well, it's a warm up, just to not get too serious too quickly.
Yeah, but we had to worry about getting everybody's technology working and all that. So yeah, whoever likes the warm up, whoever tunes in for the warm up,
we can do it. We can do it at the end if there's
okay. All right. So we're going to talk about full day kindergarten, the 3 new buildings that were purchased by the district, air conditioning, and charter schools. And then if we have any time and anybody else wants to bring up anything else, we will do so then. So let's start with full day kindergarten. I'm just going to kind of talk about a couple of the things to kind of set this up. These are, from my understanding, it's roughly a $36 million investment. And what I found out is that we were the only district of 12 in Dauphin County without full day kindergarten. That's amazing that we were one of 12. Now we're not. 950 students will be served from 13, let's call them home elementary schools. And there are the buildings that will serve these students are the one on Mountain Road, Crumbs Mill Road, Rutherford Road, and Executive Park Drive. So they're kind of split up so that a handful of home schools can kind of band together and do like 4 or 5, I guess, 3 or 5, 4 or 5. Okay, so let me start with the tax increase. Okay, I hate to start like that way, but we're here to. There's going to be taxpayers here. I mean, I think what you guys do is kind of a big 3-piece pie. You serve, of course, the students, right? The teachers and the taxpayers. Am I missing a slice? Is there a slice that I'm missing?
Well, there's an entire staff to include all support staff, custodial,
Right.
Not to mention the teachers, but yes.
So yeah, teachers and other staff, employees of the district. In my estimation, whatever investment it takes from the taxpayers is worth it. How long has this been kind of, Jeannie, I'll stick with you. How long has this been kind of discussed? I mean, you see full day kindergarten going up all around you in the county. Has this been an issue for quite a while that just is finally being seen to fruition?
Eric and I have both been on the board. I'm going on my 9th year. Eric's probably going on his 10th, 11th, 12th year. But this issue has been raised probably every year since we've been on the board. We just never figured out a solution and how to do it with the capacity in our schools that we have. What really brought this to a boiling point was as we looked at our migration of refugees into our district, that really has put pressure on those enrollments at the buildings. I believe when we looked into it, probably 6 out of the 13 elementary schools would have needed expansions within the next couple of years.
And kind of band together and so it just kind of came to a boil. Is that
right?
You had to make a decision to do one thing or the other, and
right.
The one thing made more sense, which is what you guys ended up doing.
Right, and this is, I want to say it was the out of the box thinking of our new superintendent who came up with the solution. And as we looked into it, when we looked at the price of expanding E.H. Phillips for a couple of the elementary schools to do a redistribution, it would have cost us anywhere from $40 to $50 million.
Wow.
So when you put when you put all the numbers together for 3 new buildings, and it comes out to be less than what one renovation or one expansion is, it's a no-brainer. And then we finally get to tackle the issue of a full day kindergarten program.
So I would just add, and I think Jeannie's spot on. I would just add, it was really a solution solving 2 problems. We had capacity issues at multiple elementary schools that would have either necessitated making building additions to multiple buildings, some of which you can't expand because of the footprint of the property, and or 2, potentially moving kids and shifting schools, which is always a challenge and problematic. And then layer on top of that the other issue of being, as Joe indicated at the outset, the only district in the county that didn't have full day kindergarten. And part of the reason we believe that kids attend other options is because they have full day kindergarten that they're offered. And so by offering full day kindergarten, we may be able to pull some students back that are otherwise going to other types of institutions. We solve our capacity issues at multiple buildings, and we provide the academic environment that we feel like kids in this district deserve and need.
I think it's kind of a no-brainer. Bill?
Yeah, this is the first time I've heard this detailed. My only question would be, you have 13 elementary school buildings, 3 new ones. Is there going to be full kindergarten at all 16 buildings, or how does it get split up?
Yeah, so each of the new builds will pull in multiple buildings for full day kindergarten. So you're pulling the kindergarten classes out of those buildings and into the new buildings. Number one.
Okay.
Number two, there are a few of our elementary schools that still have the space. And will be continuing the full day kindergarten within their building. I can think of one right off the top of my head, which is West Hanover, and I'm blanking on the others. It's like
Middle Paxton.
Middle Paxton. And they will be keeping their kindergarten classes in their building and doing full day kindergarten. The rest and the buildings were geographically chosen because they're close to the schools where they're pulling the kids from in order to do the full day kindergarten. Does that make sense?
Yes, it does. Thanks, Mike.
Sure.
Eric, you've been around this issue for a while now. Are most parents in favor of it?
Yeah, I think so. I think, look, in my opinion, I think Jeanne's for years was that we can't afford not to do it. And we're also hoping that the cohort that forms with full day kindergarten, that the kids will want to stay. But, it was a challenge. And, I'm not sure people understand we're the 10th largest school district in the state. And in addition to that, we traverse 2.3 million miles a year. So part of the challenge was figuring out how to transport kids. And at the same time, we're trying to work with our transportation provider to reduce routes and reduce costs. So that's thrown a lot on the plate there. But every study, any professional will tell you that this is a really important part of a young person's development, K through 2. And so, we only had half a day. We were told we couldn't do it. We're going to do it. Well, we have to figure it out. And we did float a bond, but I would also point out, unlike some other school districts in the area, our bond rating has approved, which saved us a lot of money. So we're financing the kindergarten, and in addition to that, we are going to be able to pay for air conditioning in 2 elementary schools. So it's a pretty aggressive agenda. And, as always, you try to balance the needs of the resources with, the children. I mean, look, Bill was talking about it before. We now have 22 buildings. We're the largest cafeteria in the county. We have 19 buildings with cafeterias. We have 150 buses. So if we're just standing still, we're behind the curve. And so the last 3 years, we did not raise taxes. Inflation increased by 15%. So, we've done some creative things to increase revenue. We instituted a reverse tax appeals, which brought in about $1 million, although we won't net that out the first year. And
Hey, Eric, why don't you explain what a reverse tax appeal is?
So by right, what normally happens, and it probably angers most school board directors, a company will come in and say, you overvalued my property. So you go to court and they devalue the property, which does 2 things. It deprives us of revenue, and then we have to pay fees for the amount of time when they believe the assessment was out of whack. Right. If you construct a protocol, and the protocol has to be objective, and this is what we did, if there was about $1 million difference between market value and what you were paying, we thought it would be appropriate to do a reverse tax appeal. Now, the entities have the right to appeal. They have the right to oppose. And we were able to settle. We had 29. We were able to settle with most of them. It was pretty amicable. But, the other thing, to be honest with you, we wanted to send out a signal that we're not just going to be passive.
Right.
Large corporations who operate in our area reduce their taxes, because every time their taxes are reduced, ours are increased. So, we've got a lot of properties in the district. And again, out of the reassessments, only one was residential. 29 were commercial and industrial. And we also settled with Norfolk Southern for another 130 grand a year. So this school board is unique in that it's bringing in revenue.
I think that parents, an average parent or almost all parents would be happy to not have to worry about having their child at two different places throughout a school day. I mean, I see a lot of the complaints. I follow a lot of the groups on Facebook and whatnot. And when they have to kind of do a half a day, and if you guys are like the snow delays or snow days, that's a problem for parents. And I get it. Not every employer is okay with them just not coming and going as they please, but they don't look at it as important as the parent would, for that kid to be transported around.
Prior to COVID, I just would point out, prior to COVID, it was a safety challenge because we would get credit if the student was in class until 11 a.m.
Right.
So, sometimes the decision making is, can we get them here safely, then send them home? We don't have to deal with that, but absolutely. I mean, I think that Jeannie can speak to this. A lot of the complaints we got during COVID is that parents didn't have anybody to supervise their children, during that period when we were doing distance education. As a result, I think there was a lot lost.
I think it's a brilliant investment. I started with, it's a $36 million investment for the taxpayers. And I just see it as a no-brainer. I mean, we're spending that money to actually educate our children. Okay. It's directly educating kids. Let's just say that little Billy or Sally are doing half-day kindergarten and then going off to another place that they're just kind of kicking a ball around or taking naps and stuff like that. Well, now they're not doing that, right? They're being educated for a full day. So, I'm going to start out with way to go, everyone. I'm a taxpayer. I don't like paying taxes, but if you're going to spend my tax dollars on something like this that we're discussing here, thank you very much, Bill.
Yeah, before we get off the kindergarten, I wanted to ask a question that applies to my situation. Probably there are people as well. I know when I was covering the board back in the mid 2015, 16, 17, something like that. Anyways, there was a growing number of special needs kids. And I have one now in my household, my granddaughter, Remy, who I love dearly. She's gearing up to go into kindergarten. And I think my daughter was told it's for autistic kids and special needs is half a day. Is that how it works in kindergarten?
I don't know.
Yeah, no. So today it is, right?
Okay.
But once we go to full day, my understanding, and my fellow board members can correct me if I'm misstating this, but I believe we're going to have some AS and LS support in those full day kindergarten centers.
Mm-hmm.
And so the other thing we're doing just on that topic is, in addition to full day kindergarten, which gets implemented not this coming year, but the following year in 26, the fall of 26.
Okay.
We're also trying to right size the district with respect to autistic and learning support classrooms. We have a situation now where, due to space constraints and issues, we've had to shift kids away from their home schools where they would normally go. If you lived in West Hanover like I do, you would go to West Hanover. But historically, if there's a space issue, then you went to autistic classroom maybe at Linglestown or something like that.
Right.
And so what we're trying to do, in addition, once we free up space in these buildings, by implementing full day kindergarten and pulling the kindergarten classes out into the new buildings, we'll be able to right size and put autistic support and learning support classrooms back into their home school, which serves two purposes. One, it's the right thing to do because it's their home school. But number two, it's also going to save us on transportation costs. Because right now, in an example, I'd be taking your granddaughter to a school that's further away than her home school because of a space issue. And this will allow us to reduce transportation costs and educate her in the building that she would normally be in.
Right. And you answered my question. The reason that she was told half day is because it's not happening next school year. I got it.
Plus, you don't want to transport like one or two kids on a pretty much empty bus if you don't have to, So All
Well,
right.
I just want to point out transporting special needs kids, depending on what their need is. We have a special van that has a lift and a para on board. So, but Joe, it's a good point. I mean, we, by right have to transport. We do transport. That's not a problem for us. But I just wanted to point out we try to make it as comfortable as possible.
Good. Okay, so we
Let
can
me
move
just
on
add
unless
one other thing.
Jeannie, go ahead. I was just going to say, if you guys have anything else you want to add, go right ahead.
Yeah, let me just add one thing, and this is something the general public isn't aware of. In our autistic support classes, it's an 8-to-1 ratio. We cannot put 20 to 23 kids with autistic support in one classroom. So that's another thing that eats up the space within our buildings as the autistic rate increases dramatically throughout the last 10 years. That's really put a burden, and I don't want to say it a burden, but it does tax the infrastructure.
Right. Understood. Okay. So that's full day kindergarten. I think we got a lot covered there. If anybody didn't hear enough about it or has more questions, go to a school board meeting. I mean, or watch one online. If you want to go to a school board meeting and ask a question, they're going to give you time to do so. They're not going to just brush over your question. They're going to answer it. So please become involved. And I'm sure that our guests tonight want you to become involved.
Yeah, Joe, I would second that. And so at every meeting, we have two opportunities for public comment.
Yeah.
So the first opportunity for public comment is directed towards agenda items only, and that's fairly early in the meeting agenda. And then at the end of the meeting, we have a public comment for citizens and taxpayers of the district to talk about any issues that they want to talk about and bring up in that moment.
Right.
And so there's a process to sign up. You just let the board secretary know in advance, Kim McConnell. Her information's on the website. All this information's on the website. The streaming link, if you want to watch the board meetings, that's on the website. So I just echo what you just commented.
Yeah, I don't want to sound corny, but we're all in this together. I mean, we are all in this together.
Well, yeah, and the other thing is, before we go to, I want to thank all three of you for being on the board, because it's essentially a volunteer position, not paid, true public service. So thank you very much for your service.
Thank
Okay. Let's move on to
What's that?
Last term, man.
We'll get you a cake. All right, so let's move on to the second topic, which I'm calling 3 new buildings, because it's about 3 new buildings. 75 South Houch Road is one of the buildings that the district invested in. 4251 Crumbs Mill Road. Those 2 buildings are both in Lower Paxton Township. And then in Swadara Township is 4031 Executive Park Drive. Respectively, the buildings cost $4.5 million, $2.8 million, and $2.1 million, a total of $9.4 million invested. And do I have this wrong somehow, or did we get a lot of property for $9.4 million? Who wants to start? I drove by, Jeannie, when I was on the phone with you the other day. I was driving around, physically checking these buildings out and going around the back, and really, these are beautiful buildings. They're really nice. They look upgraded. Maybe the one out in Executive Park might need a little more than the other 2, but I don't know. Talk a little bit about these buildings.
I just absolutely thought it was a steal. And compared to, I believe everyone knows Susquehanna Township, they're trying to build a brand new middle school to tackle lower enrollment. And I think the cost to that was $125 million. So to be able to do something like this under, like I said, even the expansions on one building, to me, it's a no-brainer. We have more than one building for kindergarten. The Houch Road building is essentially going to become our administrative offices. And right now, we probably have 3 different buildings that house administration. So we're able to consolidate that and allow for some, just having them all in one building, collaborating and working together as a team versus in silos is a great thing. We have the cyber building. The cyber is building, and all occupants are moving into that administration building. That will become a kindergarten center as well. I believe that's Blue Mountain Kindergarten
so.
Center,
Mhm.
which will house Paxtonia. And then we have the current admin building that will be retrofitted into a kindergarten academy.
Hey,
uh,
is
or
is the
kindergarten
Houck
building.
is the Houcks Road building the old Lower Paxton Township building?
Yes.
Okay.
Yes, it
All right.
is.
Yeah,
Yes, it is.
the other thing to point out about that building is, in addition to Jeannie's point about pulling everybody together, which is great, we're going to have enough space to develop something called a welcome center, which, given the changing demographics of this school district, and Jeannie referenced it early on in the conversation, where we have a high level of a refugee population that's been entering the district over the last few years, and we don't really anticipate it slowing down. A lot of times it's hard for those individuals to, when they come in the middle of the school year, to sort of ingratiate themselves not only into the school district, but this country. And so we're trying to help create a smoother process by which these families and their children become acclimated both to the United States, to Pennsylvania, and ultimately Central Dauphin. And so the hope is, if we can create this welcome center, it can be a resource for all these families that are now coming into the school district, and it's something that we don't currently have.
Right.
Okay, great.
Yeah, I think it's kind of cool. That building that used to be the Lower Paxton Township building, many years ago, I think there was a school sitting there called like Lower Paxton High School, maybe. It was
Yeah.
before Central Dauphin. I'm a member of some of these Facebook groups, and they're pretty cool groups, and you learn about what buildings used to sit where, and that was a school at one time. So, talk about full circle. And then I know it's not going to be a school; it's going to be an administration building, but it's going to be an education related building, and I think that's a great area. It's kind of plopped right in, maybe not the middle of the district, but kind of near the middle of the district. And for those who don't know, before we move on to the next building, if you're coming from Jonestown Road or Route 22 and heading up Houcks Road, eventually Central Dauphin Middle School will be on your right. It's on the left-hand side.
Mhm.
So you're going to be kind of going up a hill a little bit, look to your left, and it's the real shiny black building. Looks really modern, and it's a nice building. So good job on that one. And let's move on to 4251 Crumbs Mill Road. I'll explain where that one is before we get started. If you're coming out Devonshire Road, and north side's on your right-hand side, you head up to the light at Colonial Road. As soon as you go through the light, rather than making a right or a left on Colonial, the building's going to kind of be sitting right in front of you.
Okay.
It sits right at the bend. You bend over to the right there, and it sits right there. It's another. If anybody wants to see these buildings, go onto our This and That, the podcast page, our Facebook page. I posted all three buildings, and they're really good pictures of them, photos of them. So
yeah, it sits behind a United Methodist Church.
Right, correct. Yeah. So that's 4251 Crumbs Mill Road. Who wants to talk about that one? Eric?
I don't know where it's at.
Eric, do you know anything about that one?
I mean,
That's a joke.
If you're a historic buff, that's Crumbs Mill Road, and in Crumbs Mill there used to be a mill there. Actually, where that area is now, when we were growing up, was a farm. I know you hear everybody talk about that, but that's also proximate to North Side, so there should be the ability to maybe get some scale of services there. I don't know. It's a terrific location. And, for us, that's one of the main issues, because we really don't have a public transportation option. As I was saying before, we're a large school. Most of the large schools actually have public transit. So we need to find a way to get the kids there, get them back. And, I love the location. I mean, I forget what it was before, but, just so you guys know, very modern building. We had to do some retrofitting, some new wiring, cables, all that stuff, but I'm confident that we'll be up in 2026.
It was an insurance building.
Yeah, Eric, I'm trying to picture where that's at. Crumbs Mill Road, on the northern end of it, it's at Blue Ridge Village, right?
So Crumbs Mill, what we're talking about is the dividing line between Crumbs Mill and Devonshire. All right.
Yeah.
So if you were leaving North Side and took a right onto Devonshire and crossed Colonial, that would be Crumbs Mill.
Mhm.
Okay.
There used to be a PNC bank right on the corner. I don't know if it's still there, but right on the corner of Colonial and Crumbs Mill, there was a PNC bank on the opposite side of the street from this building.
It's
Okay.
close. It's close enough to Colonial Road that if you're driving up or down Colonial
Yeah.
Road and you look over there, you're going to see it.
Yeah.
Big, gorgeous building. Pretty,
It's
looks
actually
pretty
close
modern.
to, Elizabeth Village, which is being constructed.
Okay, in that area there.
Yeah,
Okay.
right.
Or-
So now what's
It's right
going there?
It's right on the left-hand side, Bill. Right
Okay.
before you go to the curve, if you look on the
Oh, it's on
left-hand
the-
side, it's right
There's
there.
a tennis courts. Tennis courts are
Oh, yeah, yeah.
almost right across the street there.
Yeah.
Okay.
Okay,
All right.
so I think we got that. What's going there now?
I don't have the list of the schools. Do you guys have it in front of you? I don't.
But,
Which
I,
ones
I,
are-
I do not. I do-
kindergartens though, right? Is
Yeah.
it-
So
Yeah.
all the building acquisitions, Joe, are for full day kindergarten academies.
Okay. all right.
So with the exception of the Houcks Mill, which is
Mhm.
going to be the new administration building, and then the current administration building will be turned into a kindergarten academy.
Okay. All right. Okay. So that's another nice building. And then the last one is 4031 Executive Park Drive.
Mhm.
And that is right behind Techport Village or Techport Business Center, Techport Drive. If anybody knows where Techport Drive is, it's right kind of at the foot of the old East Mall there.
Yeah.
What's that road? Is that 441 or no? But it's the road. It's the main
Yeah,
drag. It takes you to
It's-
Stilton.
Chamber Hill Road morphs into no, that road goes straight into Steelton.
Yeah.
Right.
But Techport, that whole area there used to be the Harrisburg Drive-In.
Right. Correct.
Mm.
So this is right near Techport. If anybody knows where Techport
Right.
is, I mean, it's a stone's throw right behind Techport.
It-
Easy in,
it's-
easy out.
It's the old ASME building.
Yeah, right, exactly.
Mm.
So, again, I'm
Okay.
sure
I know
that
where that's at.
each building's going to need some renovations or some updates or upgrades. We know that, but still, at a $9.4 million total ticket,
Yeah.
whatever it takes. I mean,
Well, and I would just offer that, from on the Houcks Mill project, very little needs done to that property to be able. We already have administration staff working in that building today, and everybody will be fully moved over once the school year completes. And so that building is almost turnkey for the most part. So that was very little from a renovation perspective. Then the other ones, I mean, you noted they're corporate office buildings. And so we're going to turn them into education centers.
Mhm.
But the bones are really good. The spaces are really good. And it doesn't require a monumental amount of demolition or anything like that to make them functional educational spaces. So I think it was an incredibly wise investment.
Yep. Okay.
Yeah,
Anybody? Go ahead, Bill.
I was going to say I've been involved indirectly in state government, looking at school districts through the news media, and I've never heard of anything like this happening. Honestly, it may have, but I've never read about it.
I think it's just absolutely the spotlight of recycling and getting the best value for the buck.
Yeah.
Like I said, if we had to add additions onto 6 elementary schools out of even of the low ball $40 million project, do the math. It's $240 million. Our taxpayers couldn't handle.
Yeah.
Right.
This is the best solution that we could have possibly come up with to
But point out, we still have challenges. We have 19 buildings that are aging. So every year we spend about $5 million to try and address the challenges that are occurring there. And then on a regular basis, we try to upgrade all of the playgrounds. So just in addition to this, which was, I think, a phenomenal buy, we will need to think of some solutions for CD East, Lingelstown Middle. And so there's only so much you can and should borrow. Maybe at some point I play the Grinch, but we're doing good things, but I'm the guy that always asks, how much does it cost?
You gotta have a Grinch, I think so. In every setting, you need
Right.
somebody that's willing to say, whoa, let's get honest with the taxpayers. This is what's going to be, Mr. and Mrs. Taxpayer. So don't come
Right.
back to us a year from now or 5 years from now and say, we didn't warn you.
It's challenging and I think to Eric's point, if you look at our demographics and our growth, we are if not but one of the top 2 or 3 growing school districts in the county. Our population growth has been fairly consistent over the years. And so while this full day kindergarten project alleviates pressures in a bunch of elementary school buildings, we still got middle schools and we still got high schools that have are at or near capacity issues that we're going to have to address in the future. Central Dauphin High School wasn't built big enough 20 years ago. And so we've got an issue at that high school from a space perspective. And we've certainly, started looking at some things there. And there are middle schools Lingelstown Middle School is bursting at the seams and others. And so we're sort of dealing with the elementary side now while implementing an academic program that benefits the kids, but also dealing with capacity issues. But we have more.
Yeah, and I just learned about a major residential development in brewing east of Lingelstown too. So it's not going to stop anytime soon.
No, that's an Uber neighborhood. That's at least 1,000 homes.
Yeah.
To support Mike's comments about the growing enrollments, just since 2013-14, so 11 years, total enrollment in all the buildings combined has grown 13%. That's a big number, 13%. In Central Dauphin, since 2017-18, which was just 8 years ago, it's grown 15% from 1,700 to 2,000 students. Mm-hmm. So there is a lot of enrollment growth in this district for sure.
Charter schools, which is high, and we can talk about that in a moment. About 24% of our kids have an IEP, 22 to 24%. So for whatever reason, there are more students coming in that require additional support for autism. English as a second language, it's incredible how many schools, require that kind of support. So the population is tangible. The capacity we're almost out of, but I think with what we did in the kindergarten, we bought ourselves some time to figure out some of the other issues.
Right. Okay. So I didn't bring you on here just to golf clap for you, but that's 2 issues. And I say, well done on full day kindergarten. Well done on 3 new buildings. Let's move on to boo air conditioning. Okay. I've been kind of milling around these township. I live right in Colonial Park. I talk to parents. I go to meetings or watch them online. I know it's a big issue. I know it's not a magic wand issue. I know there's a lot of taxpayers. When I was a kid, when I was growing up, and and they don't really. A lot of the taxpayers, they don't give a hoot how hot a kid is, and they just don't. They really, really don't. I was able to learn. I was able to get A's and go to college. I don't think that kind of defense has any merit. First of all, in anything. It didn't matter to me if my bus slid sideways on the ice. We got to school no matter what,
Oh, the problem is that you are losing days of school and educating.
Absolutely. Can I set this up? Eric?
Yeah.
With some data that you might not have handy. Let's look at 8 weeks from the last week in April. This is 2024. These are actual temperatures from the last week in April 2024 to the first week in June, which would have been the last 5 weeks of the school year, and then go forward to September, which would be the first month of the next school year. You had 15 days out of 56, temperatures 80 to 84 degrees. You had 12 days with temperatures 85 to 89 degrees, and 4 days 90 plus. Okay, we're talking about a lot of very hot days. Mm-hmm. And I did a little bit of research, and it's got to be commonly known that the heat affects cognitive function. High temperatures can slow down cognitive processes, making it harder for students to process information, retain knowledge, and perform tasks. Hot classrooms can lead to a decrease in attention span. Of course, who among us doesn't our attention decrease a little bit when it's really hot? Academic performance is detrimentally affected. Just basic discomfort and distraction, increased absences. So there's a need for air conditioning. I don't think that anybody's sitting here waiting for me to say like the magic thing and say, "Oh, now you got it, Joe." Yeah, we all know that there is a need. Where are we now? How many buildings of the? What do we have?
Yeah. So
19 buildings. 19?
yeah. So there are 6 elementary buildings that currently don't have air conditioning.
6 of 13.
Yeah.
So we're basically about halfway there.
Yeah. And so this summer, we're installing air conditioning in 2 of them, Chambers Hill and Mountain View.
Great.
And then the plan this board sort of set out is to try and do 2 buildings each year for the next 3 years and then knock it out completely. Now, the challenge is these 2 buildings that we're doing this summer is about $35 million.
Wow.
It is the cost to do both of those buildings. And I would point out that those are 2 of the smaller buildings. And obviously, like Eric mentioned earlier, inflation costs aren't going down. And so the expectation is that next year, 2 additional buildings is going to be something north of $35 million to complete, right? So given the uncertainty at the federal level, and we can certainly talk about that in the future, but, you know, and everything that we're dealing with, in addition to the full day kindergarten, the building acquisition, and the air conditioning, it's a lot. It's a lot of strain on our financial resources. We're trying to be good stewards, but we need to try to figure out a way to accomplish this, because in some of the buildings, particularly ones on the second floor, in some of those days that you described, it's really unbearable. And it's to the point where we actually have to dismiss early. And kids lose classroom time as a result of the heat. And so it's something that's long overdue. And Eric and Jeanne can both speak to it. They've been on the board longer than I have and can speak to the challenges of trying to make this happen.
Hey, Mike, whenever you go into a school and put air conditioning, does the way you do it vary? Or do you use window things, or do you have a central air? How does that work?
Yeah. So because the buildings all tend to be fairly old, we have to completely revamp the entire HVAC system. You can't, we can't go in and put window units in every building, in every classroom, because the capacity of the electrical system is just, it's not sustainable.
Inefficient too, I would think. Probably costly. Very costly.
The other challenge is a lot of times what people say is, you know, open windows or open doors and stuff like that. And given society today, that's no longer an option due to security purposes, right? So it's really something that's a necessity that we need to do. And we not only do air conditioning and HVAC, but we update the other important functions of the building, whether it be, you know, tiles, flooring, lighting. We put in low cost efficient LED lighting when we do. So we try to upgrade the entirety of the building envelope when we do all this HVAC work, because we're already in doing all the work.
All right. Thanks for that.
Jeanne, I think you wanted to say something.
Yeah, just to make comment to that, I don't think we have a choice when we do that. I think remembering what Howard had mentioned was that we have to bring the buildings up to code once we do a major project like that. So when we do the air conditioning, it's considered a major project, which requires very simply, like some of our bathrooms we have to make sure they're ADA certified, compliant.
Yeah.
So that takes up some of that money. The other thing is, like Mike had said, with the security, we have to lock the windows. We have to lock the doors. That's not something that we can do anymore, is leave them open. And that's the difference from when we went to school and where we are today. Back then, we'd have the windows open, the fans going, the doors open for the cross ventilation. And that just doesn't exist anymore.
So it's not a stretch to say it's almost like a greenhouse in there, right?
Absolutely.
Hey,
not. I mean, it could be a 90 outside, but it's like cooking 125 inside.
Oh my, yeah.
It's a real challenge.
Phil?
Yeah, I wanted to ask Jeanne, she's on the topic you're talking about. Is that a federal regulation that you have to expand your upgrades beyond just the HVAC system? Is that the federal?
From what I understand, and I can get confirmation from Howard, but I believe that's it's definitely, we have to bring things up to code once we do a major project.
Are the other 7 buildings or 6 buildings. Yeah, well, I know that the cyber charter has air conditioning because it's a newer building. Do all the other buildings have air conditioning?
Yes.
The middle schools and the high schools. Okay. So basically we're halfway there, right around halfway there with the elementary schools. And I'm going to give you another golf clap because it's being addressed. I don't think anybody's kicking the can or, kicking it down the road here,
Hey, Joe, I wanted to let you know with your stat package there,
What's my stat package?
you converted me from a climate change denier. I now believe. I'm now a believer.
Bill, these are real numbers, buddy. AccuWeather.
Yeah, look, we don't have a choice either. When we built West Hanover, and I wanted to cost contain that, I think that was $1 million over. That was 21 million. And so we lost an opportunity to, get this done at a much lower rate. So it's not going to get cheaper.
Right.
And get done. And we were able to use funds from the district to pay for it this year. Next year, we're looking at another round of borrowing. And the problem with borrowing, it increases your debt service.
Mm-hmm.
And again, we've been good fiscal stewards. The debt service is below 10%. But it's going to be trying. I couldn't believe how much it was. 35 million AC in 2 schools. It's big.
Okay, so let's kind of reset things here. Let's bring the sponsorship banner back in. We want to thank Rickabaz Electric, Be a Hero, Hire a Hero, and Team PA AAU Basketball for their continued support of our podcast. Thanks so much. And to let you know who you're watching here, we have 3 members of the Central Dauphin School District School Board, and they are Jeanne Fortney-Webster, Eric Epstein, and Board President Michael Jacobs, along with my co-host Bill Bostic. And we're going to keep moving here. We have one more scheduled topic, and then if we have a couple minutes and anybody wants to bring anything up, you're welcome to do so. And so 3 topics. And these viewers, they're not going to like me for all the golf claps, but I'm just very satisfied. You guys all know that I'm a supporter of Central Dauphin School District, and I don't go into board meetings like grumbling. And I'm always looking for solutions. I'm always hoping for solutions. And what I'm hearing tonight so far are some solutions to some big issues. So thank you for that. Let's talk about charter schools. The 2023-2024 Future Ready Index, which assesses schools and education. And Pennsylvania's 4-year cohort graduation rate for cyber charters was just 65%, 22% lower than the state's average of 87%. Okay. Look, I'm not here to beat up on anybody or anybody's choice in schools. I'm really not. That's abysmal. 22% lower. Am I missing something? Could it be that bad?
Yeah, it is that bad because they decline to take tests. They opt out on their own. So you have, for the most part, charter schools perform under the aggregate scores for the city of Philadelphia. Wow. They also have an issue with absenteeism. And, in chairman of finance, you just get frustrated. So I actually submitted right to know requests to figure out some of their costs. And, I've won the appeal 3 times and they're still refusing to disclose the information. For us, we have about 1,000 students, and we were talking about IEPs before. The one charter school we have has over 40% of their kids as IEPs. And it's a difference because it's a difference between paying $12,000 a year.
What is IEPs? I'm sorry to interrupt.
It's an individual assessment plan for
IEP. Okay.
Individual education plan.
Oh, IEP. Okay.
What was it again, Mike? I'm sorry.
Individualized education plan.
Yeah, I'm not good with acronyms, but
neither am I.
Yeah, it's all right. So for us, sometimes people get frustrated with the budget. About 80% of our budget is done for us. 71% is salaries and bennies. Another 8 or 9 is charter school and transportation. So we budgeted this year. We thought we were being conservative, about 16 and a half. We're north of 18, and actually we're at 19.2%. So that's a $2.4 million increase over last year, in addition to everything else that's increasing. So I'm not anti charter school. I'm anti entities not being accountable. just think of what that money would have done if we were able to get just a portion of it. So, the proposal out there to put a cap on the tuition at 8,000, I think is reasonable. The IEPs, we'd like to have more accountability, but Pennsylvania is the citadel of charter schools in the country, and the performance is abysmal. So there hasn't been an audit of charter schools maybe in 10 years. So at some point, we need to have a remedy to work through this. That's a significant number. The fact that we're paying almost $20 million a year in charter schools, and again, look, some of the charter schools perform well, most don't, but we need to address this issue.
The brick and mortars, some of them perform well. I don't know how well. I guess some of the cybers do, but here's a number for you. This will kind of support what you just said, Eric. Every cyber charter school in Pennsylvania is currently performing. So this does say that none of them are doing well.
Right.
Is currently performing in the lowest 5% of all public schools.
Yeah, there's a couple that perform adequately, but it's such a profound observation that I don't think people understand it. These charter schools, which are supposed to help the public schools, are essentially performing at a much lower rate. And some brick and mortars do a little better, but we have one cyber charter school that has 29 buildings. And we're trying to figure out why a cyber school would need 29 buildings. So it's something that can be fixed, something that can be repaired. I don't know where the governor is on it, but after the Auditor General, Tim DeFord, did his report, and we're grateful for that. I mean, Tim's a Republican Auditor General. He exposed some of the same stuff. So, look, we paid the check. We have maybe 12, 13 charter schools. Pay the check on time. We'll continue to do that. But we need to find some relief.
Here's some very simple, understandable numbers, and then Bill, I'll get to you.
Okay, thanks.
Steel High, they're a struggling school district. Most of us know that, okay? For different reasons. They're struggling. They're not doing well right now. Their annual budget for their district is $33 million. It's not a big district. 5.5 million of 33 million, 16.5% go towards cyber charters.
Yeah.
That's mind blowing. I thought I had to read it twice. I thought it was wrong. I thought that it's mind blowing. Go ahead, Jeannie.
One thing that Eric didn't make clear enough is that we have to pay these cyber charter schools the same rate as what it would be to educate our kids.
So 12 or 13,000 per student, somewhere in that.
Yeah. And then what he was leaning towards was that the IEPs is even a greater number. And they don't have buildings or infrastructure to support like we do. And that's been the big crux and the complaint about the charter schools and the funding.
Okay.
So you talked about, Joe, you talked about earlier about being proactive, right? So I think the district has done kind of two things recently to help on this issue. Number one, when the cyber issue was more at its apex in terms of students, when we were in the middle of COVID and we were juggling in person, not in person, all that kind of stuff, we bled a lot of students to those type of educational institutions. What the district did at that time was create our own cyber school in-house, which then allowed us to pull several of our students back from those other institutions. And so that reduced our spend on the cyber charter issue. So that was number one. Number two, the other thing we've done, and I said this earlier, with full day kindergarten, one of the reasons why students start going to other types of institutions like private schools or cyber charter schools is because they have full day kindergarten offerings. So those two issues hopefully help us financially bring kids back into our brick and mortar buildings and thus reduce our spend.
Right. I hope so. Bill Bostic.
Yeah, just two quick things. Eric, you mentioned about some proposal to reduce the per student cost for charter students to $8,000 a year.
Right.
Where's that coming from? Is that the governor's budget or someplace else?
No, Representative Cerisi has been spearheading this for a couple of years. It actually has bipartisan traction now as rural schools are feeling the pinch. And the other collar so to speak, on the IEP students would be, instead of paying what we're paying per student, pay on a need based. I mean, there's a difference between somebody who needs a speech pathologist and somebody who may need some other work. So again, it's not anti-charter. It's just they need to be accountable, and we need to be paying for the services that we're supposedly getting. Look, there are reasons kids go to charter and I get it, whether it's bullying or for a sense of security. But at the end of the day, this is an issue of fairness. And, every year the cost goes up, our cost goes up.
Yeah.
So our reimbursement goes up.
Yeah. Okay.
It's hard to win, but one of the things people need to understand is there's a big difference between a cyber charter school and a brick and mortar school where we transport people, where we maintain the buildings, where we feed the kids, where we have extracurricular. I mean, Central Dauphin is almost going 24/7. I'm hoping something comes. I'm not too optimistic, but I think most people agree that this formula needs to be adjusted.
Thank
Okay.
you. Bill, did you have another question? Or
No, I think we'll let it stand there. I was just curious about it. It's good that there's some legislation supported by both parties. Do you think there's a good chance that $8,000 number is going to get pushed through this session?
I'm not overly optimistic, but I
Okay.
will tell you that if we get a cap in that general framework, it will save our district millions of dollars.
a decrease of like 35%, something like that, somewhere in that.
Yeah,
neighborhood.
it's the Eric indicated the average cost is 12 or 13 grand per student regular. It's 10,000 more than that for a student with an IEP.
Okay.
And so the cost is just huge. I mean, it's creeping up to $20 million in our budget.
Well, I know the cyber school community is lobbying against that kind of thing, I'm sure.
Yeah.
But what other negatives for not doing that are coming to the fore?
Well, I mean, look, there was just a hearing this week where you had a kid who got D's and F and was one of the higher performers in his class. I mean,
Oh, wow.
it's getting to the ridiculous point. What would be also helpful is when they have IEP, if they share the data or the information, because the kids more times not matriculate back to the school. So I think everybody needs to get at the table. That's parochial, that's public, that's cyber and charter. Get away from their warring factions. Try to figure this out. And if we don't, it'll have severe economic consequences for us. I mean, we're almost at 20 million a year. So what we're paying for cyber is almost the budget for Steelton. And what Steelton got hit with is devastating. It's disproportionate.
So let's just be clear. Eric, you just alluded to it. We're not here to bash charter schools at all.
No.
I don't think we are. That wasn't my plan here. We're here to say that we don't like the way they're performing and we don't like the way they're funded. Right? Is that kind of like it in a nutshell? They're the two big issues. And if things could be run more smoothly, if children we felt were getting educated better, then we wouldn't have these issues or these kind of disdain.
It boils down to real simple narrative is that they're overpaid to underperform.
Right.
Yeah.
So
there you go.
And increase their performance. God bless them.
Okay. So no golf clap for that one because it's out of you guys' control. Okay. It's nothing personal, but yeah, there's just nothing you could do there.
Call it a bogey.
Okay. All right. So they're the four issues. Unless anybody else has anything on that issue, we're going to move on to miscellaneous. Does anybody else have anything other than those issues they want to discuss? Anything for the good of the taxpayer, the good of the students, the personnel?
Well, I'd like to give credit to Jeannie because this year she'd been wanting to do this for a while, and also Mike for buying into it. We've been meeting with local municipalities, West Hanover, Lower Paxton, and Swadera. So we're looking to engage in more collaboration. We still need to meet with Pembroke, Paxton, and Dauphin. I just thought that idea makes a lot of sense because you're kind of siloed in your own world. We've reached out and we'll continue to do so.
Yeah, it's
Wonderful.
been great conversations. Like Joe, you mentioned development, right? And there's or maybe it was Bill mentioned
Yeah.
a huge development that's coming in.
Right.
And so we've had conversation. And again, Eric's right, 100% Jeannie's idea, and pushed us to make this happen, which is fantastic. And the conversations have been wonderful. We're creating relationships amongst these local governments because we are one.
Mhm.
And it helps us better prepare and partner for things that are coming down the road. And so everybody knows what everybody's doing and there's no surprises. And it's been very fruitful.
Well,
Look, in a perfect world, Bill, we would like to have an educational impact statement when a neighborhood
Okay.
or development is on, because I don't think a lot of thought goes through that. We're already saturated and inundated. Include us in the discussion.
Yeah, that makes sense.
Plan.
Yeah, the one thing I'll note, Joe, we're already at an hour.
That's okay.
But the other thing doing this is good because we live in this district in Lower Paxton Township, being a huge township. We live in a news desert. I mean, it used to be the Patriot News, Penn Live had a reporter at every meeting, and that's no longer the case. I mean, they'll show up, watch maybe something on the video when there's a controversial issue, but there's not a reporter there, so the public's in the dark. I don't fully know like what the tax impact was the last time you did a budget last summer. I don't know. I didn't look into it.
Well,
But there's no news.
We've had 3 straight years of no tax increase.
Okay.
That is, a situation that puts us in a hole with inflation, what it is every year, with our labor costs, what they are, what gas costs are, what fuel costs are. Look, we're about to get hit with PJM auction fees, so we're trying to negotiate a 3-year contract in electric that also ropes in distribution and transmission. We did a 3-year deal on gas. We've got a fleet of vehicles. So standing still, you go underwater.
Yeah.
So I think one of the things we're accomplishing too, Bill, along those lines is we're showing that this board is fine with being transparent. I mean, it's so easy to just watch a school board meeting or go to a school board meeting and see these, what is it, like 11 people total? They're kind of sitting down far away from you. You can't really see their facial expressions. You don't really know what's on their mind. You don't know how much they know about all the issues, how much they care about the issues. We just learned in the last 60 minutes that we have 3 school board members that know what's going on a lot. They know a lot about what's going on.
Yeah.
They care a lot about what's going on. And that they want to be available to everybody, to taxpayers, to every slice of the pie, the taxpayers, the students, the teachers, and the other administration. So the last thing I want to do is we're going to have, let's call him relatively new superintendent, Eric Turman. He's agreed to be on the show, an upcoming show, and that's awesome. And I just remember that when he first got hired for this job, the thoughts from the community were, he's coming from Harrisburg. It's a failing district. I mean, why would we take somebody from a failing district and put them in our district that's already having its set of challenges and its own set of challenges? And I think that's kind of a very kind of ignorant approach to it, because Harrisburg's Harrisburg right now. Let's hope it gets better, but I don't know if God could well, okay.
I think God could handle it.
Well, okay. I don't know. One of the apostles. Let's just put it this way. It's really tough. Go ahead. Let's give not A through F. Let's have Jeannie grade Superintendent Turman thus far.
It's kind of disingenuous because it's a work in progress. I mean, if I had to say, I'd say he's an A at this point.
You don't have to give him a letter grade. Just talk about what he's doing.
I mean, he just has energy that doesn't quit. He came on board, was very open and honest with us. He told us that, it's going to take him 3 to 6 months to evaluate the district to see where our needs are. And he's been able to do that alongside of figuring out the solution with our enrollments in the kindergartens. I have never on the 9 years I've been on the board, I have never received the type of communication and transparency from him as a superintendent to the board as I have with Mr. Turner.
That's good.
Anytime something happens in any of our 19 schools, we know about it right away. So that when we go out in the public, we're not blindsided by the public telling us, okay? It's just night and day as to how things used to be and how they are now. And it's very refreshing. It's rewarding. Do I think he's perfect? Absolutely not. He's growing himself as a superintendent.
Mhm.
He only had 2 years under his belt at Harrisburg, and I heard the same things from the public. And the one thing, being a long-standing resident of this area, the 2 years he was there, you didn't hear a peep out of Harrisburg. There might have been
That's
one
a
or
good
two
point.
issues
That's a good
that
point.
came up, and I thought, oh my God, this guy went in there, and for 2 years you didn't hear anything from Harrisburg. Maybe one or two major issues, but nothing on the daily basis as it was before he got there, right? So I thought that was he accomplished something,
Yeah,
and
I
I
don't think
couldn't
you
have been
would.
more happy with our decision
Good.
as a team. Even our team, I have never been a part of a board that not only is very open to things that are being said, but we all communicate well. We talk. We definitely there's 9 strong-headed people that have a goal and a vision, but we can agree to disagree. We can have dissension and work through it amicably. It's just been a wonderful year on this board, and I think the results, you guys will see the results of our efforts, because
But
there's not one board
Jeannie,
member that has
I was going
come
to
in.
say, a lot of
But
this, we got to give Mike some credit on this. He's been a
well, I
wonderful.
was getting there.
All right. I wanted to score some brownie points.
If she doesn't stop talking,
I
Eric,
was
just go on.
getting there. And I just kind of lost my train of thought. But yeah, I was getting to that point, and it wouldn't have been possible without Mike. Mike is a true leader, and he really knows how to get the best out of all of us. Oh, my point was, there was no one that just comes to a meeting on Monday, reads the agenda, and just votes and goes home. Everyone here is committed to improving this district and getting it to where it needs to be, not just for the staff, but the kids are the priority. And everyone's willing to work and put everything they have into it. And I have never seen a group of people come together like that.
Yeah, I'm in full support of Superintendent Turman, and the way I put it is, you would never not hire the Cleveland Browns head coach as your coach, okay? Just because he's coming from the Cleveland Browns, right? Maybe that was just a bad place to be, in Cleveland. That's with respect to the Browns fans. But think about it, he might be one heck of a coach. He just hasn't found the right setting, hasn't found the right group, and it's not an organization, but it's just kind of the right. He hasn't found the right place to be maybe until now. And again, like Jeannie said, maybe Harrisburg was a good place for him to be too, and he kept things kind of at bay and from being any worse than they could have been. So how about if we let Mike, board president?
Eric had something too.
Oh.
No, I was going to say the problem with Mr. Turman is that he's a Dallas Cowboy fan.
Well,
you're an Eagles fan, right?
Right. You
Yeah.
got to get with the program, man.
Yeah, I would just say, we are an effective team of 10. It's 9 board members and the superintendent. And, I've had the opportunity in my professional career to serve on boards around the country. And the cohesiveness of this board is wonderful. Being board president is nothing other than I view it as just somebody has to run the meeting.
Mm-hmm.
I don't view myself as any different than the other 8 members of this board. And
I believe that
it takes 10 of us. And I think Jeannie's right. We don't always agree, and that's not a bad thing.
Yeah.
But we have reinvigorated the committee process. I've tried to empower our committees. Eric is an absolute rock star of a leader of our finance committee. Dave Dorneman with buildings and grounds, Janelle Bingaman in technology, and Jeff Gordon, who's a former educator in the district for over 30 years, leads our personnel committee. I mean, these people, Lauren Silver is running the policy committee. These people are engaged. They're taking their committees. That we're working through issues. We're trying to get the public involved at the committee levels where issues are being discussed and debated before it ever gets to the board level. And so it's a credit to everyone on the team. They've all done just a wonderful job. And as our superintendent always likes to say, it's always about the kids.
Mm-hmm.
It's always about the kids. And there's no other reason to do anything that we do other than the kids.
Yep.
Yeah.
Yep. Thank you. Thank you, Board President Michael Jacobs. Okay, so we're going to move on to the very last segment. This is one that Bill doesn't like at all.
Hey,
Bill,
can I just
Yeah,
do
go
one
ahead.
thing?
Yeah, go ahead.
I just wanted, before we move away from the school stuff, I wanted
the school
Eric.
stuff.
Well, yeah, no, Eric, it was good to see you in a farm field there at E.H. Phillips. I didn't know you were in agriculture.
I'm not actually. So it was ironic. I don't know how I got to head up the garden project, but it's a wonderful collaboration. Again, that grew out of Jeannie's idea where Lower Paxton and Central Dauphin work to get these garden lots up. And Rob and Lindsay played a critical role. She was really behind it. So, no, I'll be honest with you. My idea of farming is in the Giant or the Weiss.
More proof, though, that you guys are rolling up your sleeves and getting out there in the community.
This is like a community garden, right? People get okay.
We
All right.
visited 5 or 6 gardens to get a template and just the right way to move forward. And we decided fruit trees are not an option for a number of reasons. So we're excited. Got to give credit to Penswood, who's given us free parking, and probably need to solve the water issue down the road. But if you go over there, it's thriving. It's pretty cool.
Okay. Well, I'll look forward to getting some of your tomatoes.
There you go.
Thank you. Okay, so we're going to finish up with this and that trivia. Bill, sorry, buddy. We got to do it, especially when we have educators here. All right, so we'll make this
Not
quick.
educator.
Well, in a sense, come on. You're helping to educate, right? You're supporting education.
There you go.
Your role is to support education and the taxpayers. And okay, the state of California just passed which country to now have the world's 4th largest economy?
Ooh.
India.
No.
No, India's got a really not a good GDP, and they're very protectionist.
Japan.
Correct.
Yeah.
Hey, Bill, you're okay, Bill. You do all right. I think you tied for last time. You weren't solo last. U.S., China, Germany, and now the state of California, and then 5th is Japan.
Wow.
All-time best-selling musical artists. And we're talking about all different ways to consume music. Studio albums, other albums, which would be live and compilations, physical singles, digital singles, and streams. Number 1's the Beatles. Number 2's Michael Jackson. Number 3 is Elvis. You would think that they have to be the top 3. They are. Who's number 4? Which artist or group?
Taylor Swift.
I was gonna say.
But she's in the top. She's 8th. Yeah, 8th.
I'll give you my standard response to this. Peter Frampton.
No. Not even
I
close.
love Peter Frampton.
How about Rolling Stones?
No, that's a great. That's a great guess. They're 7th. They're 6th.
What did Eric say?
It's a rock band.
Bon Jovi.
Nope. Prominent in the 70s, and I guess in the
ABBA.
No, that's a great guess.
How
too,
about
though.
Kiss?
No.
NXS.
I will tell you that 5 through 10 is Madonna, Rolling Stones, Pink Floyd, Taylor Swift, Frank Sinatra, and Eminem. Number 4, 3, 2,
AC/DC.
1. That's another good guess, and they're just outside the top 10.
Kiss.
Queen.
Queen.
Queen is the number 4. Let's call it consumed musical artist now, since it's more than just albums. So
Stones. I mean, it's a flawed survey.
What
there
about
are
the Grateful Dead?
no. Okay, 17 of the 500 Fortune 500 companies are headquartered in the state of Pennsylvania.
Yeah.
Only two are in the top 50. You guys have any idea who they
Hershey.
would be? No, they are
Comcast.
Hershey's
Tyco.
number 361. Comcast, very good, Bill.
Yeah.
Comcast is number 33. That's one, and then there's one at number 10.
Tyco.
No, Tyco's no longer in the top 500.
Wow.
We have UGI, Westinghouse, Alcoa, Erie Insurance, Hershey, Air Products, Aramark, Rite Aid, PNC, Comcast. Bill mentioned.
How about UPMC?
No, they are not one.
They are big. That's a good.
This
guess.
is a tough one.
I would have thought Hershey, unless it's some insurance.
Hershey's 361.
How is that?
Okay.
The Hershey
What
Company.
does it start with and how many letters?
It starts with a C and it's 7 letters, and they're healthcare wholesalers.
Oh.
Concentra.
Dornerman would know that.
Sencora,
Never
CENCO. Neither did I. That's what makes it.
Really?
That's what makes it a good trivia question.
You need to make these a little bit easier.
Bill
I mean,
already got
ever
2 of
thought
them, Jeannie. Bill. Okay, 2 more real quick. What is the name of the prominent DNA expert attorney who served on O.J. Simpson's double homicide defense team? He was
Barry Scheck.
very good. He was the rock star. He is highly regarded as the of that dream team, the attorney that really helped O.J. get off, get acquitted. Okay, last one. 3rd largest school district in Pennsylvania. Number 1 by far, by
Philly.
gobs, is Philly. Number
Yep.
2 is Pittsburgh.
Yep.
And number 3 is which district?
Bucks.
Central Bucks. Very good.
Really? Central
Yep.
Dauphin is number 3?
Number 10. No, Central
No.
Bucks.
No, no,
Cent-
Central
Central
Bucks.
Bucks is number 3. Very good, Jeannie. Central Dauphin is number 10, though. That's pretty
It's
high
very
up
good,
when you have, yeah. Well done, everybody. I think the only one we didn't get is Sencora, and that's no shame there.
Yeah, I mean that's tough. I mean,
All
what
right.
are the party
Even
gifts?
in my brain.
Eric, you're not going to like your party gift. You're allowed to come back on the show. You have to come back on the show.
Oh, yeah.
That's your party gift, okay?
Gift matches our reimbursement rate.
Hey, Eric, I do like your podcast on WHP, by the way.
Oh yeah,
We
Thunderdome.
just did at Thunderdome. We have the young guy, Millennial Brian, who's exceptional, really bright, and we try to hit 4 issues every other Saturday at 4 that neither the left or the right are covering.
Mhm.
So we find it to be interesting. Look, I've been with them since Durgan.
Yeah.
Yeah, when Bob was there, and
Well, you had me on your show a few times.
yes, I did. I mean, you also were your presence with the Lingelstown Gazette really had an impact. I thought together with the Paxton Herald, it gave a really good community perspective.
He's the mayor of Lingelstown, Eric. You knew that, right?
Yeah, I saw him wrestle as the mayor of Lingelstown. And I said, Bill, I don't understand this wrestling, but if I could figure it out, I could win every election. So he took me to Hershey. I remember that to see like mega wrestling. It was interesting.
WWE. We went to one of those big shows.
That's real fake wrestling.
Yeah.
WW Eric.
I hit a home run when I met Bill Bostic 8.5 years ago, and I mean that. We started out doing sports together for about 3 or 4 years, and we've had some time apart. And now he's back, and what a partner I have in Bill Bostic.
Well, listen, Joe, I just wanted to say thank you on behalf of the 3 of us and you and Bill and this podcast. I've had the opportunity, as we talked about before we came on, I've had the opportunity to catch some of your earlier episodes and local government is somebody who has served, and my father served in local government in York County, and it is sometimes very thankless. And so I appreciate you shining the light on local government issues. I appreciate you guys having us on and to be able to talk about Central Dauphin and the great things that we're doing in the district. And I look forward to your session with Mr. Terman.
Yeah, thank you very much. Okay, so for Central Dauphin School Board President Mike Jacobs, who just spoke, Jeanne Fortney-Webster and Eric Epstein, thank you so much. Great guests. See, everybody, they're not the Grim Reapers like you thought they were. They're just out here with their sleeves rolled up trying to help educate kids, and that's really what it comes down to. You guys are doing a great job. Anybody at home that wants to try to get something across to one of these three or their 6 fellow board members, go to a meeting and speak out, and if you can't get to a meeting, I'm sure there's an email address, or there has to be. That'll be the last thing. How about if we close with that? Mike,
Sure.
how do they get in touch with you if they can't get to a meeting and they have an issue?
Sure. There's an email address. So first of all, we all have our own email addresses personally through the school district. But if you want to email the group of us, you can email board members with an S at cdschools.org. And that'll go to every board member as well as the superintendent.
Okay. Thank you very much. Okay. So last time, I like this. For Rickabaugh Electric, be a hero, hire a hero, Team Pennsylvania, and Bill Bostic, my co-host, I'm Joe Gillaway. We'll see you for episode 6, I guess, a week from now. Thanks, everybody, for tuning in. Thanks for joining us, to the board members.
All right.
Thanks for having us.
Have a good evening, everyone. Take care.